Well, an incredibly sad, harrowing moment in the history of Liverpool and, of course, in our national history too. A doubly cruel time, really, given there was such celebration at Liverpool's achievements at the moment that this happened. And, of course, my thoughts are very much with the injured, with their friends and with their family.
Mel Stride, thank you for joining us this morning. A lot has been said about how the police made the decision very early to release details about the suspect, the driver, 53-year-old white British man. Do you think that decision was made off the back of Southport and all the criticism there was there, that it was left far too long before we knew anything about the suspect?
Well, I think it is important that the police get information out in a prompt and timely manner, and there was, of course, as you say, criticism around that terrible situation that occurred in Southport and the vacuum that seemed to have been created, which was then filled, in part at least, by social media and conspiracy theories and so on. So I think the police have done the right thing to get information out in a timely way. But I do also think it's very important, actually, that we now give the police the time and the space to look into this matter, not get too dragged into speculation, and really wait to see what it is that they conclude has happened here.
But what do you think about the principle of releasing ethnicity, Mel? If they do it for this particular case, shouldn't it be done for all cases?
Well, I think that's down to the police to take those judgments and those decisions at the time. But as I say, I think probably we should just take a slight step back from this space of speculating and think about why they've done various things and so on, and wait till we've got the full picture here, which can only really emerge once the police have fully looked into this matter, including the matter of the person that they've taken into custody.
OK, Mel Stride, I was reading with interest your article in the Daily Mail. You say Labour are panicking. They're not sure what to do when it comes to the winter fuel allowance, not sure what to do when it comes to the two-child benefit cap and all of that. But I just wonder if the Conservatives are panicking a little as well. I mean, just looking at this polling, for example, the Red Wall, nearly half of those 2019 Tory voters switched to Reform already. Are you a little bit nervous that you're not quite, well, you're not speaking to the public, really?
Well, we know that we suffered a crushing electoral defeat not long ago. It is going to take time to recover from that, not least because we've got to earn both the trust and a full hearing with the British public. And I think that is going to take some time. We've also undoubtedly entered into a period now of a sort of multi-party politics, which under the first past the post electoral system is going to lead to lots of volatility and possible outcomes. But look, we are 4 years plus away from a general election, and what we've got to do as a party now, and will continue to do, is to hold this Labour government to account, whilst at the same time doing the deep thinking that we need to do to come up with the policies to address what are some very big challenges that our country faces. Now, you mentioned Reform. Reform, of course, have done well out of the fact that this is a deeply unpopular Labour government. They've done well out of the fact that we have had a crushing general election defeat. But they are now coming under more scrutiny. And Nigel Farage today, I believe, is going to stand up and say that they would reinstate the winter fuel payments, that they would also abolish the two-child limit, meaning that if you have more than 2 children on benefits, then the taxpayer will pay benefits towards the cost of those decisions. And these are big spending commitments. That's about £5 billion worth of spending right there, on top of manifesto commitments they came forward with, for example, to scrap anybody paying tax.
Hasn't your leader already said that they would reverse the winter fuel allowance decision from Labour? So Kemi Badenoch's already committed herself to, what is it, £1.5 billion of spending, reversing that. So it's not far off, is it?
Well, that, which is about 1.7 billion of the 5 billion, The rest of it, we've said we will not be abolishing the two-child cap, so that is an additional spend over and above ourselves. We were clear in our manifesto at the last election that we would not be means testing the winter fuel payments. There's no movement in position from us at all. But the broader point I'm making, Emily, and I think this is really important, is that in their manifesto, Reform said they take everybody earning up to £20,000 out of income tax altogether. That is £60 billion worth of commitment. There are £140 billion of giveaways and tax cuts in that manifesto. None of it is thought through. None of it has sat down and done the hard yards of working out how that's all going to be paid for. It is all fantasy economics, and it's really dangerous for our economy. Now, Reform are now going to come under the kind of scrutiny that they have not faced so far, and I think it's really important that that happens now.
Talk about governmental operational matters then. What lessons, Bridget, did you learn from Southport?
Well, there's an inquiry that will take place into the events of Southport. I think there will be a range of questions that inquiry will need to consider. I wouldn't want to preempt that inquiry or preempt the work that it will do.
From a politician's point of view, from a governmental point of view, were you able to spruce up communications, or what happened at Southport that you as a politician thought we can't repeat that again?
Well, in terms of the police response, it's right that the police always consider improvements that can be made, but they are operationally independent, and it's right that politicians don't involve ourselves in day-to-day decision-making about the work of the police. I mean,
but one would have thought politicians involved themselves right from the start in what was going on with Southport, which was don't say too much.
Well, I think without commenting on specific cases too much, not least the case we're talking about at the moment, it's right that we don't speculate when there's an ongoing and live investigation, because I think the last thing that any of us would want to do would be to prejudice or cause damage to an ongoing...
No, I'm not asking you to speculate. I'm just asking you about your experience at the particular time, which you're determined not to answer there. But it's quite obviously what I'm trying to say is there is a difference in procedure that has evolved since the whole awfulness of the Southport incident. And in a way, it's actually commending you or patting you as politicians on the back to say that it looks as though you learnt something and you've got this right.
Look, as I said, politicians don't involve ourselves in decisions that the police make about how they announce investigations or decisions that they have taken.
Of course you do.
It's right that they do so without interference. We get to a pretty difficult situation if you've got individual politicians involving ourselves in what should be police matters where they can, without fear or favour, do what is necessary. But you ask about the wider lessons of Southport. I think there are wider lessons in terms of what took place, the tragic loss of life that we saw. And whenever you have that kind of awful and devastating incident, you want to make sure that if things can be done differently, if we can prevent something like that ever happening again, then absolutely as a government, we'd want to do everything within our power, not just about the police.
Just one more question on this.
Wider questions too.
Bridget Phillipson, do you think it's a good thing that the police have been so quick and open with the suspect, telling us 53-year-old white British man, giving us the ethnicity, the age, the gender? Do you think that is a good thing, at least?
I think it's right that the police release into the public domain the information that they judge to be necessary and reasonable to do so. Okay. And that is a general comment that I would make. I don't want to comment on the specifics of what we're seeing at the moment, because there is an ongoing investigation. And obviously in the morning after, the devastation that we saw just late yesterday afternoon, I think what is uppermost in my mind is are all of the emergency services who've had to deal with this, but also all of those who are affected and are desperately worried at the moment about loved ones.